Yeah, maybe they will be writing about a book about me one day. I'm in a good mood tonight. Um, didn't have to work out in the heat today. I went to a chiropractor, got to feeling better. He's a good chiropractor. Dr. Wallace at Ball Knob, Arkansas. People drive all the way up from Dallas. He does different stuff. He's amazing, old time chiropractor. But I'll go ahead and tell you about the power line at Prim. A lot of good stories up there, and if anybody's going to ever get attacked by a werewolf in Arkansas, it's going to be there. And actually, I got a werewolf story to tell you about up there. But anyway, this is about my wife. You know, we've never done anything wild, and we're all kind of prudes, especially her. And you heard me say on video, she wears clothes twice her size, even when she weighed 117 pounds. No kidding, she weighed 117 when we got married. She'd wear clothes that wouldn't fit me, and I weighed over 200. And she's very self-conscious. Well, one day, I lost that Prim lease this year along with my one at Fox, just like losing my land over again. Couldn't afford it, 29 years. Um, but anyway, there's a big power line, big power pole that goes down Prim. You got to cross a mile of another hunting lease to get to it. But when it goes off, you think you're in Colorado. You actually think you're like 5,000 feet. It's beautiful. The power line going across there, they had to hang with helicopters. It is, you just people don't think Arkansas's got mountains. It's just unbelievable. And I wish I could have kept it because I can find some old pictures of it, but it's actually beautiful. Big waterfall down there. Across the power line, my land starts right when the mountain goes off. And I was telling her one day, I said, let's go riding around. And I said, hey, why don't we have a picnic and lay out a pallet and lay out in the middle of that power line and, you know, you know. I just kind of kidding with her. She said, okay. I said, huh? She said, all right, let's go. I said, what? She said, yeah, let's go. I said, I had to start back crawling out of that. I was like, I really didn't think she'd be okay with it. I was like, are you serious? She said, yeah, let's go. I said, well, God, God damn. I said, I didn't know what to say. And I said, well, let me get a couple of my pistols. Why are you going to get a pistol? I said, well, tell him what kind. I said, there is bad people all over the world. I said, there's no telling what we come into, and there's bear weigh 500 pounds, and they are, that are up there. I said, there's coyotes, there's snakes. She said, oh my gosh, why didn't you bring it up? You're so worried. You're like an old woman. I said, God dang. I said, okay. I said, all right. And I was like, now wait a minute. I said, there's advanced cameras nowadays. And I said, about a half mile across that canyon, I said, what if somebody on the other lease is out there and they've got binoculars and, got a camera? I said, we'll be all over social media tomorrow. And then our daughter will be coming to us. So what are you doing? And she says, my gosh. And I said, well, every once in a while, that other guy, when I come in the gate, sometimes the people on that hunting lease will, I said, they'll come in their part of the lease and they'll leave it. I said, for all I know, my luck, some dadgum old grandma and grandpa could be riding their kids around down the dirt road and say, oh, this gate's open, we'll go up there and we'll look. And then they'll come over the hill and bam, then what do you say? She said, oh, forget it. I am not making this up. Me and a buddy of mine was checking. We had a camera out and we was putting bear bait out. It wasn't too long after that. Wouldn't have been that day. But he said, wait, you see these four-wheeler tracks? Actually, side-by-side tracks. They is fresh. And I was like, yeah. He said, it's going leading right to our bear bait. And I went and I said, well, I'm going to see who's here. And it would have led right by where we would have been, And I'll be dang, I put that chip in the daggum viewfinder. And it was a grandma and a grandpa with their two kids on a side-by-side. You cannot make that up. That proves you can speak things in existence. Hope you got a laugh.